So good morning, everyone. It is officially 8 a.m. And as everyone can see, I am not Ann. I am filling in for Ann. I'm Reverend Mignon. I'm over at Antioch Missionary Baptist Church. I'm a staff minister there, and I'm part of NAMI Bridges to Care today. You'll see Ann's picture, but she is actually officially on vacation. And I think we all kind of threatened her like, okay, all we need you to do is turn the video on and go back and be present with your family. So she, of course, wanted to make sure that her vacation did not in any way affect our ability to meet this morning. So we have an exciting gathering this morning. Raise your hand if any of you have heard of Bridges to Care. Okay, all right, so good. So this won't be completely new for everyone, but we're hoping that you learn something a little bit more than maybe you didn't know before about Bridges to Care. And if your church or congregation is not a part of Bridges to Care, at the end of today's presentation, we hope that you would be excited to be a congregation associated with Bridges to Care. This morning, our guests are Doug Beach and Donna Costa. Doug Beach, among other things, is the president of San Antonio, NAMI San Antonio. He is the chairperson of Pathways to Hope, which you will hear more of. And Donna Costa also works with NAMI Bridges to Care as our education and outreach coordinator. So I'm going to kick it over to Doug and let him start his formal presentation, and then Donna's going to jump in and assist him, and I'll just sort of facilitate questions. I'll be checking the chat. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat. And remember, if you're not speaking, if you could put yourself on mute. Thank you.
Thank you, Mignon. And I also want to introduce Jerry Gregory, who's on the call this morning too. And Jerry works with us in helping with communications and our administrative side of Bridges to Care. As Mignon said, my name is Doug Beach. I'm a board president for NAMI San Antonio, and I want to start out with a couple things that will maybe help you understand why Bridges to Care, why this is, we think, a very effective outreach. 1 in 5 people will experience a mental health disorder this year. The first place that people turn more than to any other professional are to pastor, priests, rabbis, to their faith leaders. And so what we found over the years is that many times the clergy are either overwhelmed with their current workload or haven't necessarily been educated or prepared to deal with a lot of the questions that come up when people are seeking help for a mental health condition. So that's why we turn to congregations, to faith communities, and the idea is to help train and equip people in congregations to help one another. And we do this by forming, as we recruit congregations, we form them into cohorts, and those are congregations that are in geographic proximity to each other. And we found that congregations that work together in neighborhoods or near, when they're clustered nearby each other, they stay together longer. They end up also addressing a lot of other issues that are important to them. So with that, let me turn to, I'm going to share my screen here in just 1 second and navigate my way, I hope. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to walk through this real quick. We started out with some pretty significant goals, but the way we're organized is we have a team of people, and our wellness champions, who are people in the congregations, in the pews, those are our wellness champions, and those are the people that we educate. Our cohorts, as I just said, are made up of faith communities, generally in 7 to 10 faith communities that are nearby each other. We also work with community outreach specialists, which the city of San Antonio, through its human services, provide. So there's one outreach specialist in each council district and a manager over them. And we have, then we meet as a cohort leader network. So once a month, Donna meets with our cohort leaders to help them navigate their way through the trainings. And the Behavioral Health Network, which I'll show you in just a minute, is made up of providers in our community and faith communities. And I'm showing you right now the Behavioral Health Network members. So these are people, organizations that can help support this work, both in training and in bringing people to Bridges to Care. So how to become a mental health and wellness friendly congregation. And we talk about WISE congregations: welcoming, inclusive, supportive, and engaged. And those are just a few of the steps: consulting with your clergy, forming your, recruiting your team members, and so on. And then what we have is we have training classes. We have 6 core modules. And the one that I think really probably exemplifies what we do best is the companionship model, or companionship training, which is sponsored and developed by Pathways to Promise, which is the National Interfaith Mental Health Ministry. And it teaches people how to walk alongside somebody. Suicide prevention, becoming trauma-informed, NAMI family and friends, and in our own voice. Building a mental health program. How do you sustain and how do you build a mental health program inside your congregation? And then we have a module on finding mental health resources, which we use sacred.org to help us, to help people find those resources in their community. A lot of times it's not just mental health resources, but it's other things like where to get food, where to get social services, where to find a therapist, and we do that as I think we've had that session on the intersection before, and it's organized by zip code, which is goes back to being geographically oriented. We do additional training so that after you finish the core modules, we have things like, and we're continually adding to this, domestic violence, recovery from substance use, and you can read the rest of these. But in the last one, for example, we did recently, how to talk with your children about Uvalde. So these are topics that come up, as we live our life in this community, things that are on people's minds. But the thing I want to emphasize is that once you go through the core modules, this is intended to be an ongoing training opportunity, an educational opportunity in the community. It doesn't stop. Here, I'm going to show you the June training calendar, which kind of exemplifies, how active this program is. But this is just for June, which we've just finished. We're taking a break in July. We're going to use this time to kind of retool for the fall. But so very soon you'll find an August calendar moving into the fall. So extensive training opportunities. We have what we call steps for success, the engagement, the orientation, training, completion, cohort formation, and how to maintain. So one of the things that Donna works on in particular is how to help the cohorts and the congregations continue to stay engaged. Let me give you an up-to-date status of where we with our cohort formation and development of Bridges to Care. Today we have 20 cohorts, 68 congregations, 18 other organizations, and right at 600 wellness champions. That's been in just a little over 18 months that's been developed. That far exceeds what St. Louis, for example, did in the time that they were getting going. So it's been, and this has been in response to the demand. I mean, that's what's great to see this. So Our job this year is to help those cohorts, help the congregations continue to stay engaged in Bridges to Care. This is a list of both the cohorts and the congregations that are currently involved. And so I'm scrolling down and scrolling down and scrolling down. And with that, I want to turn this over to Mignon, and Mignon is going to talk about what Bridges to Care has looked like in her at Antioch and in the other churches that she works with. So Mignon,
Well, thank you.
I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay.
And there you go.
All right. Well, good morning again, everyone. I have the distinct honor of being the cohort leader, or I like to call the cohort cluster leader for our District 2 area. But I am on staff at Antioch, and at the onset, when Doug reached out to us in October of 2020, I became the cohort leader for our church. And one of the things we were doing prior to Bridges to Care was we were having a mental health Monday. And the second Monday of every month, we had a therapist or someone in the mental health field to come in and present on a topic. So when Doug approached Pastor Kemp about Bridges to Care, we were like, okay, this is great. This helps us take what we're doing to the next level. So we started off with 12 wellness champions, and they made it through all the training. And then we introduced them to the congregation. And I'm happy to report that at this point, we're at almost 40 wellness champions. We've been promoting the organization. We've done, in May, we did like a mental health kickoff, Mental Health Awareness Month in May. And several members of the congregation said, I want to be a part of that. And one of the things that we've consistently done is to highlight a mental health tip on our screen every Sunday. So there is what we call the scrolling announcement. So the suicide hotline number will be presented at some point during the church service. There may be tips on how to handle anxiety. We have a resource kiosk in the foyer of the church that has NAMI information, that has information on peer-to-peer counseling, all of the services that NAMI offers. Our membership can go out, get that information, and have it at their fingertips. One of the things that we've noticed is people are more willing to talk about mental health. They're more willing now because it's been coming across the pulpit. Pastor Kemp has been speaking about it, and he's always spoke about it and encouraged the congregation. It's okay to have Jesus and a therapist. They can work hand in hand, and it's all right. So we've had members that have come and said, I'm struggling, I'm having some PTSD issues. Who can I talk to? Because they know we're a Bridges to Care church and we have wellness champions. They reach out, and everybody at Antioch knows about Sacred. We've been tooting the Sacred card for quite a while now. And I'm happy to say, I'm sad to say that there were people that were struggling that maybe we did not know, but I'm happy to say they had a place to come. We've recently had someone struggling with PTSD, and their young adult son was struggling. And they felt comfortable enough to call and say, okay, I've put this off long enough. Can you put me in contact with someone who can get us the help that we need? And for any of you all who've been in church, temple, synagogue, that's a huge step for someone to come out and say, I'm having trouble and I need something more than prayer. So that's kind of what we've been doing at Antioch. I know over at Mount Zion First Baptist, which is a part of the Samaritan cohort, their first lady and their cohort leader have something called Kitchen Island Tea, and it's a podcast. And they recently did a segment on mental health. We're constantly sending out emails to the wellness champions, letting the congregation know, check out the NAMI website, check out the PBS special. I don't know how many of you all saw Hidden in Plain Sight, the special that's been on mental health issues in young adults. It's been a huge eye opener for so many. So we're hoping, our goal, I'd like 100 wellness champions at Antioch. So we're almost there. When we get to 50, I'll be super excited because we'll be halfway there. But it definitely is something that would benefit any organization that you're a part of. Everyone likes graduating. They like getting their certificates. We've had Ms. Donna come over and provide us with a talk, and they understand the level of training that they're getting is integral to them being able to have a conversation and be confident. That's one of the things I've heard from the Wellness Champions. Reverend Mignon, I can have a conversation now about mental health and I feel better equipped. I'm bold enough now, I'm empowered enough now to ask the question, do you feel like you might harm yourself? Do you feel suicidal? Prior to Bridges to Care, people would not have asked that question. They thought if I ask that question, it puts the idea in the person's mind and now I've done more harm. But that's what we've done at Antioch. I know Ms. Donna is on the line, so we certainly want to hear a bit from her as our education and outreach coordinator. And she's the one that keeps all the cohort leaders together. Also, before we go, I know we have several cohort leaders that are with us this morning. I think I saw Pastor Alexander, Emma Alexander, as well as Pastor Veron Blue, who is the cohort leader of the Rafa cohort. Ms. Donna?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. I kind of wanted to address a question that was over in the chat on how much is Christianity a part of the resources and trainings, and can this be used in a secular environment? At Bridges to Care, we try to be very inclusive, and I think Jerry could probably really speak to the heart of this the most, but we try to include inclusive language because we want this to be about everyone. Because, mental health conditions mental illness doesn't respect the person. It doesn't care what class you're in, what religion you're in. If you're struggling with mental illness, it's across the board. And so we try to keep it very inclusive. So all of our trainings, we feel like it's open to everyone, every member of the community. But going back to what you were sharing, about what some of the cohorts are doing, I can attest to it firsthand, being able to visit with a lot of the congregations and hearing and seeing what is being done in the community because of Bridges to Care. And when you pointed out how people are now, having the conversation, I think that's the power right there. Giving people permission to have the conversation, number one, but then number two, just because we're having a conversation, what does that mean? And are there resources? And I think because we partner so well with sacred.org, we're able to give people a resource, a ready-made resource in their hands so that they can look and find out what resources are there in their immediate community. So I think that's why Bridges to Care is so powerful. It's because we not just say, here's information, but also let's connect you with that information so that you can actually be empowered to actually seek out the services. And so that's the power, I think, in all of this work and in the beauty of this work.
Donna, let me add something.
So Doug, there's a question.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Let me
There
just
was
add
a question in the chat
about
the funding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I went ahead and put an answer in there. I mean, NAMI raises its own funds. We have a grant request into the county and the city for some ARPA funds to help us sustain this. But let me just say, one of the unique things about the way that we've approached Bridges is that too oftentimes people wait until there's a crisis before they get help. So this program is very much aimed at pre-crisis. How do we help people identify mental health issues and know when it's time to maybe ask for some help or seek help? On average, this is very, when I talked about 1 out of 5 people will experience a mental health disorder this year, on average, people wait 10 years past their first mental health episode before they seek help. Well, like any other illness, if you wait 10 years on anything, it ain't gonna look good. It's, it's a problem. And that's when people go into crisis. That's why we find too many people in the jail. That's why there's emergency rooms that get filled up with people in crisis. So this is very much a grassroots effort aimed at helping people get help before it becomes a crisis. One of the things I like to, if Ron Blue were on today, she would tell you this, but she certainly told us that what Bridges has done for them is she said, Doug, we didn't have a way to talk about mental health and mental illness. Now we have a vocabulary. We know how to talk about it. And when we can talk about it, now we're beginning to deal with it. So the big emphasis of what we do is pre-crisis. And that is unique. And it's also what's unique is it's grassroots. It's people in our community helping one another.
Yeah.
I want to show real quickly, and then I think we'll open it up to any other questions. I want to show real quickly the NAMI website, which this is the home page. And if you scroll over here to Bridges to Care and click on that, it gives you information on Bridges to Care, and you can click on any of these, for example, about us, and it'll tell you more information about all the classes, etc. The other thing I want to point out is Pathways to Hope, and it's a tab on the NAMI website. And I want to also let everybody know that we are going to have a Pathways to Hope conference this year at the Tobin, August 26th and 27th. It is free. This will be the first time we've been back in person since the pandemic, and we're excited that Dr. Tom Insel, who is a former director of the National Institute of Mental Health, is going to be our keynote speaker. But we'll have workshops, plenary speakers, and we'll be opening registration in the next day or so. And everybody will be getting information about Pathways to Hope. But Pathways to Hope is where we first brought people from St. Louis to talk about Bridges to Care in their community. And that's how we decided to bring it to San Antonio. So we're excited about that, and you all will be hearing more about it in the near future.
Right. I had a quick question for both Doug and Donna. My question would be, where do you both see the biggest potential for Bridges to Care, and where do you see the biggest need for Bridges to Care?
Well, I can speak to the greatest potential. I feel like is really, really showing up the youth programming, getting all that organizations out there that are working with youth, and not just youth in schools, but within the faith communities, building up programming so that way we can help faith communities really, really have mental health directed and focused kind of programming for the youth, because I'm gonna tell you, they're asking for it, they're hungry for it, and that's a need area that's a gap here, I feel like.
So 50% of mental illness begins by age 14, 75% by age 24, and people wait up to 10 years to get help. That's the problem. So we need to reach youth. Donna mentioned, one of the things we want to work on this fall is how to engage faith communities in reaching youth and their families. We think that faith communities are a very much overlooked part of, resource in our community to help get that message out to youth. But I can tell you from my own personal experience as the parent of an adult son with a mental health issue, we wished we had been able to be more engaged when our son was younger. So that's a big, big need. And as Mignon said, the special on PBS by Ken Burns, Hiding in Plain Sight, about youth mental health. Oh my gosh, everybody needs to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta be ready for it though.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's hard
I
hitting.
also see where August Higgins put in City of San Antonio Mental Health Public Input Meeting, July 9th. That's this Saturday at District 2 Senior Center on 1751 South W.W. White. We welcome anybody who will go and speak to the need of Bridges to Care and mental health support in our community. So we need your support.
Thank you. So I would ask the question that Ann would ask, how can the folks here at the intersection help or become involved with Bridges to Care?
Well, I think, Donna, you want to talk about how, anybody who's on here whose faith community is not engaged in Bridges to Care. First of all, it's a free program. How would somebody get signed up, Donna?
All they have to do is just reach out, and however they want it, I can come out and do a presentation and talk about Bridges to Care. We have a monthly orientation that people can participate in to learn more about Bridges to Care. But all you got to do is just reach out and say, hey, I want to know more. And my faith community wants to know more. And I'll come out. I'll be a pest.
So Donna, did you put your information in the chat?
I'm about to right now.
All right, okay. So are there any other questions regarding Bridges to Care?
I had a question, but I want to make sure that I say it correctly. So is grieving counseling part of your itinerary?
What's the name?
What grieving counseling, like for loss?
Yes, we have, we've had workshops on grief and how to cope with grief. So yes.
So
Yes, Jerry.
Go ahead.
Jerry, did you have something you wanted to share?
No, thank you.
Okay, I thought I saw you go up. Good morning, so glad to see you.
Thank
Doug, go
you.
ahead.
Mignon, let me just say, the question about grief in a class or an educational session on grief counseling, those are the kind of suggestions that come up from people involved in Bridges to Care and say, oh, could you do something just like the Uvalde shootings? How do we talk to our children about the Uvalde shootings? And so we reached out to Donna, was it Clarity and Jeff Gentry?
Yes, and so, well, yeah, Jerry was able to connect with Dr. Gentry, and he absolutely said that, no, we need to have this conversation. And also too, we had Dr. Indy Gray give a presentation on rapid response for faith communities. How can faith communities be that resource for other faith communities who are actively going through a tragedy, just like Uvalde? If we had that rapid response, a team in place here, they would be at the ready to be that support for faith communities that are going through it, because faith communities are going through the tragedy themselves. So if an outside rapid response team could come in and be that support while they actively work through the trauma that they're going through as well. So that's something that just was birthed from, the tragic events that happen, but also from the community that's happening at Bridges to Care.
Let me also add, in addition to being a wellness champion and the benefits that you would bring to your organization or your congregation, many of our wellness champions have said how taking Bridges to Care training has personally impacted them, particularly our companionship training. People have said that I now have become a better listener because of the training. I don't argue with my daughter as much. My spouse and I are able to have conversations that we didn't have before. And it's almost like a byproduct that no one expected. Everyone got involved thinking, I'm going to help my congregation. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to help my temple, my synagogue. And they realized, oh, we had some family issues that maybe we needed to talk about. And now I have the language, and now we can have these conversations. So if you're thinking, well, I don't really know if my church needs this or if my congregation needs this, think of what could the personal benefit be to me? How can this assist my life? And I often told our wellness champions, you don't know how this training is going to impact your life somewhere down the line. You don't know how God is going to use this. And I'm specifically speaking to our congregation, so I put it in that context. So don't think, well, I don't know if we need this. You never know when you're going to need it. And it's better to have the training and not need it than to need the training and not have it.
Yeah.
What other
Yeah,
questions?
I think it was like Pastor V. Braun shared it best. It's like, we didn't know what we didn't know until we went through this training. And that's when we realized there was things that we needed to know. And it gave us the language that Doug shared earlier. But you don't know what you don't know until you learn it. And once you learn it, it's like, wow, it kind of opens up the world a whole lot more to you, because then you can actually start doing some work and working on some things that you didn't know that you needed to work on.
So before we go on to the next question, Mr. Peter, I see your question. We want to be a good steward of everyone's time. My clock says 8:31. So if there are those of you who have to log off, we understand that. We ask, and Doug, we know that you have an 8:30, you need to log off, but Donna and I will still be on for those of you who can hang around for just maybe a few more minutes, 5 or 6 more minutes. And the question in the chat was, okay, so our trainings, Mr. Peter, are all online. So everything is done via Zoom, and a training link can be sent out, and Ms. Donna can help coordinate that. And we provide trainings at different times. So there may be a daytime training, there may be a weekend training, there may be an evening training. We try to hit all aspects because we know everyone's schedule is different. But all of the trainings are done online, and that was due to COVID. And we've found that we've had a wonderful response. My thing is something good had to come out of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So more people are able to participate because everything is virtual. Anyone else? Any more questions? I know Pastor Blue is on. I didn't know if she wanted to jump in and add anything at this time.
I don't think she can talk. I think her
Okay.
voice is.
All right. Yes, I see Mr. Sammy. Do you have a question? I see your hand is up.
I don't have a question, I have a comment.
Okay.
Regarding Bridges to Care. We have an outreach that is being developed and stood up called Saving Faith Outreach. And we've gone through the training, my wife and I, at Bridges to Care, all 6 modules, plus the one additional class of our liking. Found the training to be very, very informative. Someone said, you don't know what you don't know. And that's true. You hear a lot of things being talked about, but when you sit in the session and you learn what companionship training is, you learn how to become trauma informed, suicide prevention, mental health resources. Those kind of resources have really aided us greatly in our effort to get our outreach up and running. It spurred me and my wife both to go through AACC, American Association of Christian Counseling, to go ahead and become mental health coaches. And so I've completed that training as well, and really feel good about what the Lord has placed in our heart to do. But it's about equipping yourself. It's about being prepared. And Bridges to Care has definitely been that foundation to point us in the right direction and to create some excitement about getting the tools and the resources that we need to be effective in our endeavor. So I just wanted to give that commentary about Bridges to Care and their value and their worth.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think one of the other things we want to make sure we point out, part of the real purpose too was to help erase the stigma of mental illness, that we would at least begin having the conversation. And As Doug mentioned earlier, oftentimes people will come to their faith leader for instruction, or they'll come to their faith leader with their issue. And it's important that within the faith community that we don't add to the stigma. So, you know, we have little badges and signs up that say this is a stigma-free campus, and that you can talk about mental health and there is no judgment. So, and I think Bridges to Care gives us the language and helps us understand that this is a disease, just like if you had cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, there's no stigma associated with those illnesses, as there should not be any stigma associated with mental illness. All right, let's see what we have. So Ann put, I thought I would share that I was able to find an EMDR therapist that takes Medicare by searching Sacred. Yes, Sacred is a huge, huge blessing in the city of San Antonio. We pass the Sacred cards out at our food bank on Wednesday. They're in the front office at the church. I have extras in my purse. So I tell
Me too.
everybody about Sacred. And we're so happy. Bill Neely provided a mental health portal to help us with the navigation. Because one of the things we found is people may come to us with an issue, but then helping them to navigate the system and find could sometimes add to what was already a stressful situation. So the mental health portal has made it a whole lot easier for us to connect people with the resources that they need. I saw Mr. Stevens' hand, and then I think Billy was gonna make that comment about the mental health portal as well. Mr. Stevens? Mr. Steven?
Yes, thank you very much. I just want, I'm sure that it's welcoming and affirming for LGBT concerns. So I just want to make sure that we had an agenda item for that, because we have still a need for mental illness in the LGBT community as well.
Yes, and that's also why we made sure we were using inclusive language. And, you know, terms, things that maybe we used to say 20 years ago, we don't say that now. So yes, that is a part of the priority, and that is a group that we hope would take advantage of Bridges to Care and not feel that they were not welcomed.
Yeah, and also too, we're building on programming for that as well.
Anyone else? We're at 8:37. All right. So just curious, how many of you feel like you've learned more about Bridges to Care than maybe you did when we opened up this morning? All right, good hands. So how many of you, it's in your mind now, maybe I can be a part of this, or maybe I can figure out how to get involved. All right, I saw a few hands, good. Please reach out to Donna. She put her information in the chat, as well as Doug Beach. We hope that you all would check out the Pathways to Hope conference in August. That is a wonderful opportunity to hear what's going on in the world of mental health wellness, and to hear a little bit more about Bridges to Care and how we plan to move forward. If San Antonio is considered, and we are a city of compassion, then mental health has to be on our agenda.
Yes.
It has to be on our agenda, and we have to be compassionate about the needs of those persons who are struggling day to day to live in this world with a mental illness. Anyone else want to share anything before we get ready to close out?
Quick question, it's Ann.
Yes. Hi, Ann.
With the news from the Supreme Court and just the state of things in Texas for women, do you know if there will be any particular attention brought to that subject of women that may not, have access to an abortion should they need it, and then facing mental health issues, stemming from that?
So, Ann, I don't know that we have a training specifically for that, but we do have training that would address any mental health issue that a woman would find herself in need of. So,
Yes. And we also
that's
have
the best way.
support groups as well, especially for women. So if someone is looking for support, they can reach out to NAMI San Antonio, and we can connect them with a support community.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I just want to take this opportunity to thank Ann for allowing me to sit in the big seat today. And I think we all should just give a round of applause for the fact that Ann took a vacation. She is off with her family, and she is fully present with them. So again, thank you all for being here this morning. We know how important the intersection is. Please share the information that you learned today about Bridges to Care with anyone that you think might be interested. And I just want to give a shout out to my pastor this morning, Dr. Kemp. He's checking in with us on his other job at the hospital. Everyone have a great day. Be careful. As the young people would say, COVID is still out in these streets. So everybody be very, very careful and have a blessed day.
Thank you. Thank you, Mignon.
Thank you, everyone.